So, hello everyone. I am really excited to be on this call right now. Just feeling so appreciative that we have this community and to be able to make this connection and to be in this field of discovery together. It's just such a beautiful thing. Maybe Nicole, while I'm talking, if you can let people in the call, that would be great. Thank you so much. So my name is Michelle Yasuda, and I'm the program director for the Foundation for Conscious Living's Big Leap Home online programs. And these programs support individuals, organizations, and communities in generating agency, connection, and creativity on our shared planet. And I so appreciate you joining our Big Leap Bridge community, where we engage in Hendricks practices so we can build community while we discover, play, and learn together. So before I turn this call over to our beautiful facilitator, I want to say a few words about Nicole Taylor. I have the great honor of being a colleague and friend of Nicole's. I find you, Nicole, to be so delightfully presence, like it's like there's this sumo down when I'm in your presence. I can feel my feet on the ground. I can feel a calm resonance coming from you. And it's like I get my whole full breath when I'm around you. And there's this playful wisdom that is just who you are. And I love how you show up in the world, and such a beautiful soul, and so giving and loving. So I'm really excited for everyone, for you to experience Nicole as a facilitator. And I'm going to just toss the call. There you go. I'm tossing the ball over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate your appreciation, and I had to like wiggle to take that one in. So thank you. Thank you very much. It's so good to be with you all today, and I just want to take a minute and look around so I can feel each of you. Hi, Meg. Ah. Hi, Glenn. Hi, Lillian. Hi, Darlene, Matt, Anton, Elizabeth Jean, Nicoletta, Elena, Michael, and Celeste. Wonderful. Wonderful. Great. So I thought we could begin as we do, just with a couple of breaths so that we can land here. How does that sound? Okay, good. So you can keep your camera on or turn it off, whatever feels comfortable to you. I'm not really gonna guide you through a meditation just yet. That'll be later this evening. But I just want to invite you to really feel your sits bones root down into your seat. And begin to notice how you feel in your body. If there's any part of you that wants to move to meet the energy that you're feeling, go ahead and move in ways that feel pleasurable and allow you to give yourself some generous attention. Wonderful. Great. So 5 gateways to dynamic stability. Just thinking about dynamic stability and what that actually means. And as I think about everything that has been taking place over the last few months, stability definitely feels like it needs to be dynamic, right? Like I don't feel this sense of wanting to park on any one thing because everything feels like we're in this cauldron of movement. And so rather than thinking of stability as the staticness, I was thinking more of how can stability be sourced so deeply from within that whether things feel stable in the outside world, or whether we feel like we're being churned in this giant cauldron, we find that sense of comfort deep inside of ourselves that allows us to do our work in the world, and also to contribute to the larger community in ways that help us to create the world that we want to live in together. So that's what I mean by dynamic stability. And if you do know me, you know that I'm super into keeping things simple. It's one of the reasons that I was so attracted to Katie and Gay Hendricks's work, is that it's all about coming back to the body and being present. And in a time where I was ticking it off, like, what are the things that are in this soup that we're in? We've got a worldwide pandemic that's happening. We have we're very close, or we're in a time of an election that's happening, a very important election. America is in the midst of reckoning with systemic racism. And then there's just like being a human. So that's 4. You may have a couple more in your toolbox, but it's like, whoa, that's 4 things. That's a lot, you know? So kudos for, you know, getting dressed and getting on a call. I always, every day in my gratitude, just thank myself, you know, thank the universe for waking up. That feels good. And then just for the ability to like move through the day. So thank you all for doing that. And I hope that every day you kind of give yourself a little bit of credit for all of the things that you're moving through as you move through the world. So I wanted to kind of create that larger context of, as I see it, at a minimum, those are the things that we are finding dynamic stability within. And also wanted to make space for, if others had things that they wanted to bring into the field, feel free to either unmute and share that, or to put it into the chat. And you're always welcome to just hold it in your heart, and you don't need to speak it unless you want to as well. Good. All right, so let's move in. And before we move in, I just realized I don't think I introduced myself. I think there's a part of me that always wants to kind of avoid the tooting of the own horn. So I'll just out that I think that's what happened there. My name is Nicole Taylor. I have been very curious about well-being for as long as I can remember. And I've been studying or being mentored by Katie for, I think, 6 years. I was part of the Leadership and Transformation program, which was a 2-year intensive where we really lived and practiced the conscious living and conscious loving tools. So that has been such a gift to me in terms of being able to really feel the whole wisdom, not just of what you have, you know, in your brain, which that's what I always used to go to, was just like, what does the intellect say? But really being able to source wisdom from my whole body. So that's what these tools help to do. I also have taught yoga and meditation since 2008. So you'll see some of that make its way into the practice today. And I'm an Ayurvedic health counselor, and so some things get informed by that as well. So that's a little bit about me. Mostly I feel like my purpose is to help whoever wants support around creating an inner sense of well-being to have tools to do that. So that's why I love doing this work. So I don't love just lecture. So let's do the first one together. The first gateway to dynamic stability is the body. And I thought of this 2 different ways. In one way, when you are feeling, bless you, Meg, when you are feeling a sense of activation, it can be extremely helpful to match that activation with movement, right? So I'm thinking of last week, I was watching, I think that was last week, like time is so bizarre right now. Last week I was watching the debate, and I just was having all of this sensation while I was watching it. And of my own accord, I just started like doing a little bit of a shake, right? Like I was feeling so jittery when I was watching it that my body just started to match that movement. So go ahead and take a couple of breaths, turn your attention inward and notice how you feel. And once you have a sense for how you feel, allow yourself to create a movement that matches that. And it can be big, it can be small, but what is the movement that matches how you are right now? Ooh. Good. And this is really just a practice of getting current. So let yourself move in that way. Make sure that you're still breathing as you match your inner experience with a form of movement. So there's measurable energy that it takes to push down emotions. There's measurable energy that it takes to distance yourself from how it is for you right now. And what I love about matching movement with the sensations in my body is that all of that energy gets liberated. Boom, I'm just right here, right now. Yeah, good. And so this is what I like to do if I feel activated. Ultimately, we're coming down onto the ground. But if you feel activated, this is a way to meet yourself where you are, right? So you just watch the news, or you're waiting for a COVID test, or you had a tough phone call. You may not feel like you necessarily want to get right down onto the ground at that moment. You might actually feel like, woo, I have all this energy. And so the first invitation is to meet that energy with your body. And then once you feel here, because you've met yourself in that way, then get grounded. That is the number one way that I can come home to myself in a time when everything feels like it's swirling, is to get my body down on the earth. So if you have space, let's do that together. I'm going to turn the camera down. Yes, good. And this is actually a yoga pose called Makarasana, Crocodile pose. Come onto your belly. Feet are mat's distance apart, or if you're not on a mat, let your feet be a little bit wider than hips distance apart. Stack your forearms, fingertip to elbow, and then let your forehead rest on your forearms. You might notice that you were like, whoa, I'm moving. So if your butt clenches, release it. Let the bottom go. And have your stacked forearms far away enough from your torso that your shoulders can relax, but not so far that you start bringing in strain to your neck. Once you're down here, just allow yourself to be held. You can feel those places in your body where you tend to grip or to hold tension, or to protect, to hold yourself in, to hold yourself up. And now that you're down on the ground in your safe space of your home, just let yourself be held. Give yourself over to the earth as if it's holding you in the palm of its hand. You might feel your breath start to deepen. Let that happen. And once you feel like you're really allowing yourself to begin to be held here, and scan your body. And starting with the crown of your head, just scan down, noticing some of the places where we tend to hold emotion. So sadness might be felt in the upper chest or the throat. Notice if you have any sensation there. And nothing to do but to be present with it. Sometimes anger is felt as sensation in the back of the neck, the jaw, the upper back, shoulders. Notice what's going on for you there. Fear sometimes felt as sensation or fluttering in the belly. Notice what's happening there. And know that this support of the earth is big enough to hold whatever emotion you notice. Also notice that with your head down and eyes closed, you're not taking in information through your eyes. So it really supports you in coming back to your inner world. Great. And when you're ready, go ahead and roll onto your side. Press yourself back up. And we'll meet again. That's hard. I feel so good. And stay there another 10 minutes. Oh, so relaxing. I don't know, guys. It's so simple. And I do this every day. And it's just, I find it to be incredibly nourishing. There's this aspect of, oh, right, I can let myself be held. And no matter what is happening in the world, for right now, gravity still exists. Right? So you still have that sense of, yeah, you can just get your belly down on the ground and you don't have to do, you can just be held. And to me, that's part of the dynamic stability, is remembering you can choose to take rest and connecting with that sense that you don't have to feel like you're holding up the world, right? You can allow yourself to be held. Does anyone have any questions about that first gateway of the body, both the first part of if you're feeling activated, meeting the activation with movement, and then once you feel in yourself and just letting yourself get down on the ground and feel that physical sense of stability. Great. Okay. What if you feel, Letitia is asking, what if you feel low in energy? Yeah. I have definitely had the experience of, 15 belly breaths in that posture, noticing that I'm really fatigued and then making time for rest. So that can look like, if you're like me, you're a terrible napper. I'm not a good napper. And that's what practices like guided relaxations, yoga nidra, these are just some things that you can find online where someone's leading you through a practice. If you're not someone who falls asleep with ease, and if laying down can kind of almost reactivate you, then I would suggest a guided meditation. And Katie Hendricks actually has this great tool called the harmonizer. And so maybe we can put that in the Facebook group or in the chat, Michelle, that's something that you can listen to that's guided, that can support you in resting. Yeah. Okay, great. So the second gateway is the breath. And wonderful. Yeah, Glenn, I'm seeing that you have been taking care of a lot of folks, and yeah, want to come back to rest for yourself. Wonderful. Wonderful. Great. So the second gateway is the breath. And as I think about how the breath is supported, I'm reminded of learning what is called the centering breath. And it's one of the tools for restoring resourcefulness, which is a set of 5 tools that we're teaching in order to help people restore themselves in this time of change. But the centering breath is super useful. And if you're a yoga person, maybe you've heard it just referred to as diaphragmatic breathing. So it goes by a number of different names. But what I love about the centering breath is that we match hand movements with diaphragmatic breathing. So for the centering breath, just begin by taking your hands and just pulsing between, squeezing the fists, squeezing them into fists, and then releasing. Yeah. And feel that sense of squeezing the fist. Maybe it comes into the arms and then releasing. Good. One more time like that, squeezing and then releasing. Wonderful. And now adding the breath. So as you squeeze, begin with an exhale. And as you inhale, slowly release the hands. Let your body fill with breath. Exhale, slowly bring the fingers in, breathing out navel to spine. Inhale, and taking in breath, letting go of the hands, letting the fingertips open. One more like that. Exhale, and let the fingers come in. Inhale, release and fill. Great. And now let your hands rest and breathe in the same way without the hand motion. So as you exhale, there's a sense of emptying. Navel comes in toward the back body. And inhale, release the belly. And take in breath. And just a couple more like that. Wonderful. And when we breathe down into the belly like this, we're actually signaling moving into the parasympathetic nervous system. When we're activated, we might find that we're breathing higher and up into the chest. And this way of breathing down into the belly, it can support moving out of that state of activation. So really simple. And this is a practice you can do. What I love about many of these practices, such as the centering breath, is you can do that wherever you are. So you're in a meeting, you can do the centering breath, right? You don't have to do the hand motions necessarily, but you can breathe in that way and allow that to soothe you. Great. The third gateway to dynamic stability is your senses. I think that there was one day where I kind of watched someone call me and they didn't get me. And then there was a text and that didn't work. And then there was a Facebook message. And I think there might have also been a WhatsApp. So we're kind of in this technology world where folks want to reach you, and there's many ways for that to happen. And there's nothing wrong with that, except that sometimes it's so pervasive, it can feel like we're not choosing, and we can choose. So part of fostering that inner sense of stability is, how can you choose what you let into your senses? You know, when I chose to watch that debate and then I couldn't sleep until 1 a.m, I kind of felt like something was done to me. But the truth is, I chose to let that in. So we're always choosing what we let in. And if you think about all of your senses, whether it's something you're letting in with your eyes, whether it's something that you're listening to, whether it's something that you're smelling, how you're being touched or touching yourself. All of these things are things that have to be digested. From a yogic perspective, you are digesting everything that comes in through the senses. So what are you feeding yourself? It's just a question to ask. When I think about that sense of stability, personally, I notice a huge difference when maybe I take a Sunday off of news and I give myself a news diet on Sundays. I notice a huge difference in how much access I have to that inner stability. So I want to give you a minute or two to just journal a little bit. Think back through your day and journal a little bit about what you let in through your senses. And don't do it from a place of judgment. Definitely not wanting to support that. It's more the curiosity of like, oh yeah, what did I watch? What did I read? How long was I on Twitter? You know, who did I speak with? What music did I listen to? Because all of that has to be digested by you. And it's so easy to just be like, oh, wow, I feel really out of sorts. And then sometimes you can trace that back when you start getting curious about this question. You can trace that back to, wow, I was on Twitter for 4 hours. Why did I do that? That place is a cesspool, you know? So it's like one of those things where we can get so habituated and forget that we're choosing. So I'm going to be quiet for a couple minutes and just let you take a little bit of time to journal and to get curious, non-judgmental awareness. What did I let in through my senses today? Good. Just a few more moments. Great. And so now that you have thought a little bit about what you took in through the senses today, I want to give you a couple more minutes to spend a little bit of time getting curious about what are the sensory impressions that are nourishing for you. So this weekend we took a nice hike in the Wissahickon, and if you're on the East Coast, the leaves are changing, and so there's just there's so much beauty to be had through the eyeballs in nature. And I know from spending time out on the West Coast that you have plenty of beauty there too. So that's just one example of a positive, or not, I don't even want to binary it positive or negative, but just it's nourishing. We're getting a new dog, and I've been getting texted pictures of this dog, and that is highly nourishing. What a cutie with her tongue hanging out. It's ridiculous. So that's another example of a nourishing sensory impression. So for the next few minutes, why don't you take a couple of moments and journal down for yourself. What are the things that feed you? Maybe it's the orchestra, or maybe it's, if you can't go to a museum, even looking at really beautiful art online. So just take some time to think about that for you. Darlene says, petting my kitty's lap when he's on my lap. So nourishing. Lillian notices her eyes are tired. Yeah, so sometimes when you start to bring your attention to the gateways of the senses, you can notice some fatigue there. So, oh yeah. Antony, walking on the wet grass this morning, soaked in sunlight. Yes, that's a good one. Yeah, I would love to hear either putting it in the chat or unmute and share, because you know, you might be doing something amazing that I can learn from, or someone else on this call can learn from. So yeah, desert, sunrise, and sunsets. Yum, I like that, Glenn. Feeling the wet air after the rain, says Elizabeth. That's good. Walking on our nature walk and noticing all the aromas. I love to amplify it in my body. That's great, Darlene. Oh my gosh, yeah. When I read that, I smelled the forest. That was wild. Elena, just presencing and feeling my own body. Yes, yes. Letitia, incense and meditation. Yum. Oh my gosh. What's your favorite incense? I've really been enjoying frankincense lately. Yeah. Long hug from my husband. Ooh, that's good, Darlene. Hugs are great. Ooh, rose geranium essential oil. Yes. Loving, caring touch. Yes. That's wonderful. And you know, oh, that's one thing I would love to share. This is this comes from Ayurveda. So that is something that I think a lot of folks, if they live alone, sometimes you're yearning for touch. And that can be kind of hard in you know, in pandemic times. So there's a practice from Ayurveda called Abhyanga, and it's a practice of self-massage. And basically, you take a washcloth and you brush down the body, long strokes on the body, circles at the joints, and, you know, go down from like face all the way down to the feet. And then warm some oil. If you run cold, use a thicker oil like sesame oil, because that has warming properties. If you run hot, you might want to use like a sweet almond oil. And you'll warm that up so it's warm to the touch. You don't want it to be hot and uncomfortable, but you also don't want it to be cold, because that won't feel so nourishing. So warm it up, and then rub some on your palms, and you're just now massaging up the body from the toes all the way up the body, up the neck, and on the face, ears. Long strokes up the arms and circles at the joints. And this is a really beautiful practice for nourishing yourself. It's wonderful both for really positive touch on a daily basis. And it also has this really beautiful after effect of after you shower, because you've oiled and you've kind of like anointed yourself with this oil, you treated yourself like you would the divine. And then that essence still kind of ripples through the day. So now you've got almost this like invisible protective shield. That's how I experience it. So yeah, Abhyanga, very beautiful practice for anyone at any time, but I just find it to be super nourishing at this time. And definitely if you live by yourself too, you can still have really healing, nourishing touch. Yeah, good. I feel like that lit you up, Elizabeth. Awesome, 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 awesome. Great. Okay. Wonderful. So that's a little bit about senses and just wanting to create a balance. You know, I understand that I understand, and I have that desire to be informed. It's definitely not a time to be uninformed, I think, about what's going on around us. And yet, what is that balance for you? And only you can decide that. But with that curiosity to, oh, okay, well, what did I let in? And what was the result of that? And then how might I tweak that balance so that some of those things that are more distressing and that cause me to get stuck, it's not that, you know, anger is bad, it's a healthy response to trespass, and yet getting stuck in that might not be so skillful. So wanting to bring in these other impressions that nurture us and nourish us so that we have that, that's the dynamic stability that's kind of riding the wave. Great. Any questions about that? Okay, great. So the fourth gateway is the mind. And to me, meditation is the way to support a sense of inner, it's one really great way to support a sense of inner balance. So I thought I would lead us through a short guided meditation. And then when we come out of the meditation, still have some journal materials next to you, because the fifth gateway is choosing how to take action. And I love pairing these two because each of us has this deep knowing from our essence, and meditation is a way to touch that knowing. And then once we've touched that knowing, then asking what is mine to do, the answer that we hear will be coming from and informed by that essence. Whereas sometimes if we don't go inward first, it can be easy to take on maybe what is someone else's to do. Have you had that experience where maybe you're not someone who is suited to being at a protest? Maybe you write letters, or maybe you teach healing tools, right? Like everybody has their own work that is theirs to do. And I think we can cause ourselves suffering by seeing what other people are doing and thinking we should be doing that. So the practice of meditation is always going to lead you inward, and then asking what's mine to do, what is my work in this context that we're in, and sourcing that from essence means that we'll be aligned with our inner nature, and we won't be kind of doing something that someone else said that might have a very different disposition, constitution, purpose. And so I really love this practice for being able to source that. Okay. So coming into a comfortable seat, whatever that is for you. And I'm trained in the Himalayan tradition. I will teach meditation as I practice it. If you come from a different tradition and you want to still be in this meditative space together, but you want to do your own practice, please do that. And if anything that I'm saying is not aligned with what feels good to you, then just focus on your breath. So we can all create this space together, and you can engage with what I'm saying as much or as little as you want to, as long as you feel comfortable and still like resonant, is my hope. Okay, great. Good. So finding a comfortable seat and feeling the head, neck, and trunk of the body aligned over the hips. And spine is tall, but not rigid. And let's again get established in that centering breath or diaphragmatic breath. As you breathe in, feeling the belly fill, taking in the nourishment of the breath. And as you breathe out, letting go, releasing. And feel that natural nurturing, the inhale, taking in what you need. And the exhale, letting go of what you no longer need. And I'll call a number of different points in the body, and you'll just bring your attention to those points. In this practice, really, we have busy minds. So this practice just gives your mind a particular way to move through the body and supports bringing the mind back to the home base of the body. And bring your attention to a point, the center of the forehead, for one breath. Move your awareness to the center of the eyebrows for one breath. Awareness moves to the inner corners of the eyes for one breath. Move your awareness to the tip of the nose for one breath. And take your breath at the center of the throat. Awareness moves to the tops of both shoulders for one breath. Awareness moves to the center of the upper arms for one breath. And take one breath at the center of the elbows. One breath at the center of the wrists. And feel yourself at the center of both palms. Take one breath at the fingertips of both hands. And take a second breath at the fingertips. And take one breath at the center of both palms. Awareness moves to the center of both wrists. One breath at the center of the elbows. And feel yourself at the center of both upper arms for one breath. And take one breath at the tops of both shoulders. Awareness moves to the center of the throat for one breath. And take a breath at the center of the heart space. And take a breath at the bottom of the sternum. Awareness moves to the center of the navel for one breath. Awareness moves to the center of the pelvis for one breath. And move your attention to the perineum for one breath. And take a second breath at the perineum. Awareness moves to the center of the pelvis for one breath. And take a breath at the center of the navel. One breath at the bottom of the sternum. One breath at the center of the heart. And take one breath at the center of the throat. Awareness moves to the tip of the nose for one breath. Awareness moves to the inner corners of both eyes for one breath. Move your attention to the space between the eyebrows for one breath. Awareness moves to the center of the forehead for one breath. As you inhale, feel the sensation of the breath moving along the ceiling of the nostrils from the tip of the nose up to the eyebrow center on inhale. Eyebrow center back down to the tip of the nose on exhale. Just become more aware of that sensation as the breath flows in and out. And as your as your breath moves from the tip of the nose up to eyebrow center on inhale, eyebrow center back down to the tip of the nose on exhale, allow your attention to move with the breath. So as you breathe in, you feel both the breath and your awareness mingling and moving from the tip of the nose up to the eyebrow center. And as you breathe out, you feel your breath and your awareness moving from eyebrow center back down to the tip of the nose. And there's a natural sound that rides the breath, and that sound is so hum. And so hum meaning I am that. that energy that moves through you, that moves through me, that moves through nature. Give the mind that sound to focus on so that as you breathe in, you hear in the mind the sound so. And as you breathe out, you hear in your mind the sound hum. And so each inhalation hearing so for the duration of the inhale, and each exhalation hearing hum for the duration of the exhale. And let your attention, your focus remain on inhaling so and exhaling hum. And if your mind gets distracted by a strong thought, that's fine, just notice. And return your attention to inhaling so and exhaling hum. And when you're ready, let your chin come down to your chest, rub your palms together to generate some heat. Place your warmed palms over your eyes, preparing your senses to turn outward again. But keep one arrow of your awareness looped in toward your inner world. And so that as you move through the world, you can have this oscillating sense of awareness, noticing the world and noticing you and noticing the world. When you're ready, let your hands come back down. And from here, moving right into journaling, ask yourself the question, what is mine to do to create the world that is so nourishing for all of us? What is mine to do to create the world I want to see? And once you have listened for the answer, it's okay if no answer comes. That's a big question. You might be in that one for a while. That's totally fine. But maybe some initial inkling comes. And the second question is, what is an action you can take toward that world? And make it bite-sized. Wonderful. So those are the 5 gateways to dynamic stability. Body, in which we move if we're activated, and if not, then we just get down on the ground and let ourselves be held. Breath, in which we use a diaphragmatic or centering breath in order to move ourselves or avail ourselves to our parasympathetic nervous system, that part of us that lets us rest and digest. The third gateway being choosing how we want to engage our senses and finding that balance for us that really works for what we want to take in and then how we want to nourish our senses. Mind, doing some form of meditation, doesn't have to be the one that I taught, but there's so many different ways out there, and there's so many great videos that you can find that can support you. If mantra meditation doesn't work, there's plenty of other ones. You can find the one that works for you. And then the main reason for that meditation is to touch that inner essence, and from inner essence, choosing how we want to take action in service of a more just world. So I got so caught up in that meditation, it went a little longer than I meant it to, so I didn't leave a ton of time at the end. So sorry, Michelle, I think you were gonna round us out, but if folks have questions, I will be around afterward, and we'll have, you can put them in the chat as well. So thank you all so much for your time and your attention. I greatly appreciate each of you. And I hope that whatever you learned today is of service to you.
Oh, Nicole. Wow, what a class. That was absolutely beautiful. I feel like, feel really good. Thank you so much. Yeah, if anybody wants to hang around and ask Nicole some questions, she's happy to do that. I'll be hanging around for a little bit. And thank you, Nicole. Really appreciate you so much. So feel free to unmute yourselves and you can say thank you to Nicole yourselves.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank
That was
you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
That was so
Thank you, guys.
fun. Oh.
Awesome.